What if the one person you trusted the most was the one causing the most harm? Daniel thought he had it all figured out. A good job, a loving wife, and a mother he would do anything for. But when his mother started getting worse inside that hospital room, the same room where his wife visited every single day, Daniel had no idea that the answers were right in front of him the whole time. This is the story of a son who almost lost his mother because he trusted the wrong person. Daniel was the kind of man who carried the weight of everyone else on his shoulders. He worked long hours at a construction company, came home tired every night, and still found time to call his mother before bed. His mother, Ruth, was 67 years old and had been fighting kidney disease for almost 2 years. She wasn't doing great, but she was stable. The doctors said with the right care and rest, she had a good chance of recovering. Daniel couldn't be at the hospital every day. Work was too demanding, and the bills didn't stop just because life got hard. So he made a plan. His wife, Sandra, would visit Ruth every afternoon. She would sit with her, make sure she ate, talk to the nurses, and report back to Daniel every evening. It seemed perfect. Sandra always came home with updates. Your mom ate well today. She's in a good mood. The nurses say she's doing fine. Daniel felt relieved. He thought at least his mother wasn't alone. But something was off. Ruth kept getting weaker. Week after week, instead of improving, she was going in the wrong direction. The doctors were confused. Her test results were not adding up. One doctor even told Daniel quietly, "Her body is reacting like someone who is being given something it shouldn't have. We're running more tests." Daniel didn't sleep that night. He started thinking back. Sandra had never been close to Ruth. In fact, before Ruth got sick, the two of them barely spoke. There was a tension there that Daniel always ignored because he didn't want to deal with it. Ruth had once told him, "Daniel, that woman does not love you the way you think she does." He brushed it off. He thought it was just mother-in-law stuff. Normal friction. Now those words were coming back to him like a slap to the face. The next morning, instead of going straight to work, Daniel made a stop. He went to the hospital early, way before Sandra's usual visiting time. He told no one. He walked in, said hello to the nurses at the front desk, and went up to his mother's room. Ruth was awake, and the moment she saw Daniel, her eyes filled with tears. Not happy tears, scared ones. "Daniel," she whispered, "please don't leave me alone with her anymore." He froze. He sat beside her and held her hand, and slowly, carefully, Ruth started talking. She told him that Sandra wasn't visiting to take care of her. Sandra was visiting to make her feel small. She would say things like, "You're such a burden on Daniel," and "He would be so much happier if you just let go." She told Ruth that Daniel was tired of paying hospital bills, that he was ready to move on with his life. Every visit, Sandra would say something cruel and then leave with a smile, but it was worse than words. The nurses had mentioned that a family member was bringing in home food for Ruth, saying the hospital meals weren't good enough. Ruth, not wanting to seem difficult, had been eating it. Sandra had been bringing food, and Ruth had been getting sicker. Daniel walked straight to the nurses' station and asked them to hold any outside food from his mother immediately. He called the doctor and explained what he had just learned. Within hours, the medical team ran new tests and found traces of a substance in Ruth's system that should not have been there. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was enough to interfere with her medication and keep her body from healing properly. The doctors contacted the hospital security team. Daniel called the police. When Sandra arrived that afternoon for her usual visit, she was met not by a quiet hospital corridor, but by 2 police officers. Waiting near the elevator, she tried to stay calm. She smiled. She said there had been a misunderstanding, but the evidence was already there. The food containers, the witnesses, the test results, and the security footage showing Sandra bringing in packages that were never reported to the nursing staff. Sandra was taken in for questioning that same day. Daniel sat beside his mother for hours that evening. He didn't say much. He just held her hand. Ruth cried. He cried. There was no need for a lot of words between them because sometimes silence says everything. In the weeks that followed, with Sandra out of the picture and Ruth finally receiving proper care without interference, something incredible happened. Ruth started getting better, slowly but truly better. Her test results improved. Her energy came back. She started eating the hospital meals and complaining about how bland they were, which, honestly, was the best sign anyone could have asked for. Daniel divorced Sandra. It wasn't a dramatic process. There was no big fight. He was just done. Some betrayals are so deep that there is nothing left to fix, nothing to argue about, nothing to save. He filed the papers, moved forward, and focused entirely on his mother's recovery. What happened with Sandra legally is still ongoing, as these things tend to take time in the court system. But Daniel made sure every piece of evidence was handed over. He wasn't going to let it go quietly. The thing that Daniel said later In a conversation with his cousin who shared this story, was something that stuck with a lot of people who heard it. He said, I spent so long trying not to see what was right in front of me because seeing it would mean my whole life was a lie, but ignoring it almost killed my mother. Some truths are uncomfortable, but they're still the truth. That line hits hard because so many people are living in that exact space right now, choosing comfort over clarity, choosing peace over protection, telling themselves things are fine when deep down, something is screaming that they're not. The lesson from Daniel's story isn't just about a bad marriage. It's about paying attention. It's about listening, really listening, to the people who love you most. Even when what they're saying is hard to hear. Ruth tried to warn him. He wasn't ready to listen back then. But he listened when it mattered, and that made all the difference. If you're in a situation where someone close to you keeps getting hurt, keeps getting worse, keeps struggling, and something feels off, don't wait. Don't make the same mistake Daniel almost made. Trust your gut. Ask the uncomfortable questions, because sometimes the danger isn't coming from the outside. Sometimes it's sleeping right next to you.